Fantasy fanfiction. Foundation. Start with American comics. Exposure and Advent. Chapter 21. The Fall of Queens. Nick Fury is as gloomy as water, and this is definitely the biggest crisis S.H.I.E.L.D. has ever faced since its formation. It can be called the end of the world, the Doomsday Crisis. SCP-008.008. No. I seem to have heard of this number. The corners of his mouth murmured and repeated, and while he was chanting, Nick Fury's eyes suddenly lit up. Director. Natasha Romanoff looked up. Must the braised egg be driven crazy? This is a containment item that has just been exposed. Where has he heard the relevant name? If the people in the intelligence department had this kind of ability, they wouldn't be able to lay off half of the staff. Right under the suspicious gaze of Natasha Romanoff, Nick Fury excitedly pulled out a set of document bags, quickly opened them and flipped through to the number of pages he wanted. For infection with SCP-008. Zombie virus. Tests conducted by D-Class personnel have shown that even in the advanced stages of the disease, a single dose can completely cure it. Close black lens bracket. Right. That's right. It is the panacea. When exposing SCP-500 before, the pathogen used for testing was SCP-008. Prion. Zombie virus. It's a thing. And the panacea. They happen to have it in their hands. Only a third. Natasha Romanoff ruthlessly poured cold water on her mouth. Even if the medicine works, it's not enough. In the broadcast screen, the number of zombies is constantly increasing, which has already broken through the 100,000 mark and is heading towards 1 million. Real. A drop in the bucket. We can reproduce it. The biggest advantage of science is the industrial chain. As long as the formula and solution are found, with the development speed of modern technology, mass allocation can be achieved in an instant, especially under the power of the state. Nation. Has the power to move mountains and fill seas. Don't underestimate every country with a highly unified regime. Turn over all the elixir powder you got to Tony, we need his wisdom. Nick Fury said. But the director, the Avengers plan we proposed earlier was rejected by him. Phil Coulson scratched his head in embarrassment. Although Howard's relic was sent over, Tony still rejected his proposal flatly. The tone is quite firm. That rich playboy is not an easy person to deal with. This time, he'll agree. He's Stark, and Iron Man. Braised Egg's attitude is very firm. Straight to Natasha Romanoff and Phil Coulson with a secret escort in case of an accident. Now, it depends on the survival time of the infected person. Can we persist until the development of new drugs? His deep voice echoed in the empty office. Stark building. Tony just received a express mail before he had time to open the research. The system alarm flashing light suddenly sounded next to it. Gentlemen, nuclear strike detected in transit. Exclamation mark. Scare. Tony was taken aback. The place where he is the center of the empire, launching a nuclear bomb to this place. Is this the end of the world, triggering nuclear blackmail, all kinds of nuclear bombs flying around, directly plowing the ground, and entering a nuclear winter? After Jarvis entered a series of information, Tony's face softened a little. But the anger in his eyes burst out directly. You said someone targeted Queens with a nuclear bomb. Want to use a nuclear bomb to blow up the zombies directly? Yes, sir, the order from the information network is like this. It has been temporarily intercepted by the system, and the fake IP page can be hidden from the other party for at most 3 minutes. Mechanical sounds sounded around, cold and austere. It's you. Tony glared at Phil Coulson. S.H.I.E.L.D. absolutely has this power. How come? It's definitely not us. Before Phil Coulson had time to marvel, Tony, a lawless guy, actually monitored the interception of the nuclear bomb network, and was suppressed by the black pot, and he quickly shook his head in denial. If we have this purpose, it is impossible to come up with the panacea powder, which is a panacea that can cure all diseases. Phil Coulson emphasized. SCP-500. Tony looked at the things in front of him, his face slightly relaxed. Phil Coulson managed to get some information through S.H.I.E.L.D's internal network. Military. The military reused that lunatic, Ross. The release of the nuclear bomb was his personal decision, and it has been found to be intercepted. Good old Phil Coulson couldn't help but look bad. I didn't expect the military to start so darkly. Private decision. Tony scoffed, and didn't believe this excuse at all, let alone the cloud bomb. If such a big killer as a nuclear bomb could be mobilized privately by Ross alone, then the Empire would be completely hopeless. This kind of trick, fooling children would not believe it. Against Tony's disdainful gaze, Phil Coulson still bit the bullet and spoke. The nuclear bomb. Although it was barely stopped, the director meant that the high-level military may not stop like this. We may only have 24 hours left. If we can't solve the zombie frenzy before the new day comes, they don't rule out the possibility of continuing to use this plan to deal with it. The zombie virus must not spread out of Queens. This is not only the military, but also the bottom line of the Empire. Asshole. Tony slapped the table, gritted his teeth angrily. This is a nuclear bomb. The group of high-level officials obviously held the attitude of killing them. Once the attack was detonated, more civilians would die tragically under human weapons than in natural disasters. Million. Given the population density of Queens, and the determination of those people to break the boat. Just in case, Tony was not surprised to expand the attack range and directly annihilate tens of millions of people. The subsequent loss and impact are even more immeasurable. Tony could already see how soon the president would be pushed to take the blame. Can't they do some personnel work? Tony was outraged. The contagion of SCP-008 is too terrifying. If it is allowed to develop, not only the Empire, but even the world may fall under the zombie frenzy. Natasha Romanoff's voice was a little cold. She who came out of the Red House is definitely a qualified agent character. Nuclear bombing, although it sounds outrageous, is definitely the most concise and effective solution to a certain extent. For others who were not infected, zombies are not scary. The power of modern technology is enough to destroy their stiff bodies. They are highly contagious and lethal. They are the most terrifying things. If they cannot be destroyed as soon as possible, once they spread, they will definitely form a terrifying natural disaster. The nuclear bomb that destroys the surface is definitely the most effective means of annihilation. Once and for all, this is in line with the high-level means. At a certain height, human life is just a number to weigh, and anyone will choose to sacrifice 10 million to save 7 billion. I'll take care of it. Tony's muffled voice sounded. He also knows that in the era of sudden changes, this choice is beyond reproach. But, it's Iron Man. I'll save them. Tony whispered softly, like a promise, but also like speaking to himself. He will use his brain cursed by knowledge to develop the vaccine and antidote for SCP-008. But, before that, he still needs to connect with a friend. A friend who can stand shoulder to shoulder with him in every aspect, let him never meet again. JARVIS. Yes, sir. Gotham City. Zombie virus. Panacea. Research vaccines, antidote. After hanging up the phone in his hand, Bruce murmured with an indescribably serious expression on his face. It was Tony Stark's invitation. The rich second generation who are equally wealthy and have the highest IQ, they definitely know each other in the same country, not to mention the high-level reception. They have met countless times. The top-level circle is so small, it is difficult not to know each other. Not to mention that to a certain extent, the two of them can be said to be one body with two sides, they are so similar. It seems that the eradication of evil has taken a while. Bruce, who put on a battle suit to maintain peace, decisively changed today's itinerary. Time is limited. I need new transportation. Bruce narrowed his eyes slightly. Whether it was the Batmobile or a private jet, it took a lot of time to go to Queens. A few hours, in the only 24 hours, was already very cherished. This kind of waste is too extravagant, and Bruce definitely wants to avoid it as much as possible. If he remembered correctly, another good friend of his happened to be in Gotham right now. It's definitely no problem to take a ride with the wind. Mutant school. Zombie frenzy. Professor X stood on the ground, and the elixir powder that Wolverine had seized cured his lower body paralysis. Although it is not a complete recovery, standing up normally is no longer a problem, but strenuous exercise is a bit difficult. Professor, those guys are starting again. Storm walked over with a frown. The outside of Mutant Academy was already in chaos. Eric. Professor X frowned. Originally, he was going to Queens to see if he could stop the spread of the zombie virus, but before he could go out, he was stopped by Magneto. If he wants to unify, then come. Magneto wants to take advantage of the unprecedented catastrophe, unify the power of mutant, seize the position strongly, shape mutants' exclusive hegemony, eliminate poverty and inequality, and create a world with only mutant. Coincidentally, he also wanted to be in this mess. Let mutant come to the fore, let the regimes recognize their status. Stark Industrial Building. All kinds of light curtains and high-tech projections are constantly changing with Tony's fingertips. The dizzying torrent of technology, like the special effects of a movie, makes people dizzy. Even the agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. are stunned. This kind of technology exists on the Earth. Tony's face was still ugly. Even uglier. Even the virus map of SCP-008 was exposed on the screen, and the 3-level color band map was fully revealed. But, wanting to achieve a breakthrough in a very short period of time is undoubtedly a dream. Not to mention obtaining antidote and vaccine. Arrive. Tony, who was so busy, raised his head, with some surprise in his eyes. He arrived so soon after only 2 cups of coffee. JARVIS. According to the request in the headset communication, Tony opened the landing point of the floor-to-ceiling windows on the top floor. Call out. Tearing air sounds. A big muscle bully wearing underwear flew in from the outside. And Bruce, who was waiting for him, happened to sit on the other side, and Red's cloak was pressed down. This is your friend. To be precise, a close friend. Let's meet, Superman, Crick Kent. Bruce corrected bluntly. Seriously, as if the thing in his belt wasn't kryptonite. Crick, this is my friend, Tony Stark, maybe you can call him Iron Man. Bruce turned his head and patted Superman on the shoulder, introducing Tony to him. Superman. Interesting title. Tony nodded, and looked at Crick with a bit of sympathy. Having such a close friend, it should be very difficult at ordinary times. He knew Bruce's awkward character, and like him, he was instinctively wary of all superpowers. Just like he warehoused Curry and sealed an anti-Batman battle suit. With the power and strength that Crick just showed, Bruce must have also rehearsed in his mind the various ways to deal with him. To a certain extent, the two of them are really similar. No, Bruce is a good guy, the only one I can trust. Crick smiled, with a sunny smile on his face, like the sun shining on everything. It's an unexpected resemblance to a certain old antique. Tony curled his lips, and couldn't help but think of a certain boy model with big buttocks. But now is obviously not the time to worry about these things. We're running out of time. Tony looked serious. Yeah, I know. Bruce nodded. Studio. The two looked at the test data in unison. Even if there is an exposure video, which reveals the 3-level color band map of SCP-008, which greatly reduces the difficulty of corresponding research, as well as the information mentioned in the previous content. The SCP-500 panacea can completely cure this disease, but this kind of medical treatment is obviously still very difficult. Time is too short. Bruce frowned. In less than 24 hours, even if both he and Tony have incredible wisdom, it will be difficult to achieve results. Science is never something that can be achieved overnight, especially life science. Only long-term accumulation can give birth to a leap-forward explosion. Such a short amount of time is not enough to even research a cold medicine, let alone solve the zombie virus. We have no choice. Tony shook his head, his face very serious. No matter how difficult it is, someone has to do it. Millions, even tens of millions, of civilians are waiting for them to save. If only I had more time. Bruce just muttered a word, and continued to immerse himself in the research. Various reagents and drafts were flying in his hands. He was obviously very familiar with Tony's studio, and it was not the first time the two had come into contact. Perhaps, you need help. Just when the atmosphere was getting low, a vortex of fire continued to expand, and a figure in a yellow robe, accompanied by another man with a dazed expression, walked out of the portal with an unforgettable demeanor. Exalted Mage. Tony blurted out a surprised voice. SCP-008 is outside the isolation line. A large number of soldiers with live ammunition and heavy laser weapons have aimed at every exit, completely blocking the market. Captain, are you really going to Queens? The virus inside has already begun to spread, and the surrounding area is completely blocked by the military. Even if I can put you in, it is impossible to bring you out before SCP-008 is resolved. Nick Fury's face was a little dignified. Queens has become popular and marked as a very high-risk location, even though he resisted the pressure and stopped the nuclear bombing. It can also persist for 24 hours at most. When the time is up, the Security Council will definitely act on its own. If Captain America is put in Queens now, after the time is up, Tony and the others have not developed an antidote, and Captain America is very likely to be bombarded by nuclear bombs just like common civilians. Don't underestimate the conscience of those high-level people. Stability trumps everything. I must go. Steve's expression is determined. In Queens, there are still many uninfected people, and the order inside is already in a semi-paralyzed state. If no one maintains order, it will only make things worse. And we need morale. Ambitious people have never been in the minority. If the matter of the nuclear bomb strike is leaked out, the consequences will be unimaginable. With the high-level concern for stability, if there is a riot, the nuclear bomb will be launched in advance just in case. In Queens, where the order is half broken, the people obviously need confidence more than supplies. Governments will not give up their confidence. To some extent, he, who has been deified as a symbol of the American spirit, can just shoulder this confidence. Iron Man is fighting. How can Captain America stand still? Holding the shock gold shield in one hand, Steve rushed towards Queens without looking back. Within Queens. I'll go, there are too many zombies. Hey, brother, don't bite me. Brother over there, give up your position and let me pass by. The cobweb keeps spraying from the hand launcher. With white turbid filaments dangling one by one, Peter shuttles easily among tall buildings, like Tarzan of the Ape in the forest. With his unique spider telepathy, he is like a fish in water in this environment. Oh, my God, look what I saw. Zombies actually gather into groups. Could it be, a wise zombie leader appeared? Just as Peter was swinging the cobweb back and forth, he suddenly noticed an abnormality in front of him with sharp eyes. Zombies. A high concentration of zombies. The concentration of zombies in front of them was significantly higher than other places. The zombies that were circling aimlessly on the street, like cats that smelled fishy, began to gather towards a certain point in the center. The more zombies gathered, it was obvious that something was wrong. There is a situation. Peter, who was swinging the cobweb, stared. Do you want to go and see? Peter muttered to himself, although it was a question, but he obviously had no other choice. As one of the few living people on the street. Don't look at him with a free and easy face, constantly swinging the cobweb around, and taking out his camera to take pictures from time to time, not forgetting to complete his work as a reporter. But the mood inside is definitely not good. Even a little panicked. No matter who comes to awakening, they will be stunned when they find that their home is within the scope of the zombie frenzy. Even superhero is no exception. Zombie frenzy. This is something that appears in various doomsday movies. The pictures on the sky screen were continuously transcribed, and Peter already knew that the entire Queens district was blocked and fell under the zombie frenzy, and countless civilians could only shiver in the room. He took the risk to come out at such a time just to investigate the situation and see if he could find a way to break the situation while maintaining justice. Peter definitely would not let go of such a weird place. Little Spider-Man, be fearless. Shish. A few cobwebs ejected, and Peter swung out directly. With agility's skill, he easily kicked away some SCP-008 infected people and rescued some survivors. He didn't care about their words of thanks, and swung directly into the depths of the zombie circle. What is that? How could there be such a thing in Lost? Monster, it's just a monster, it's not a zombie at all, it's the call of Cthulhu, right? Spider-Man, be careful, run out. The screen broadcasted on the screen made countless people sweat in a cold sweat, their eyes widened as if they had received a huge shock. For a while, the information on the network was iterative, and the terrifying torrent of bullet screens directly overwhelmed the server. Countless people roared through the internet, trying to remind the little Spider-Man who was about to rush in on the screen. However, Peter, who didn't hold his mobile phone, obviously couldn't see these prompts. Twisted creatures. Odin frowned. This mixed feeling of evil made him feel like he saw a demon in hell. The spear of eternity in his hand was shining brightly. Rune's words bloomed brilliantly, and at some point he didn't mind taking shots. No matter how Midgard is, it is also one of the 9 realms, and Odin definitely understands the reason why the lips are dead and the teeth are cold. Queens. No, speed up. Steve frowned as he waved the vibranium shield in his hand and knocked away several zombies. Breaking through the outer line of defense and rushing inward, his speed increased a bit. He wasn't even interested in dealing with the zombies that gathered, so he relied on his super soldier's body to throw them away with his speed. There are so many zombies here, I feel like I will meet a big guy. Peter frowned. As we went deeper, the sense of danger from spider telepathy became stronger. But Peter, who has advanced here, obviously cannot choose to retreat. Use the cobweb to tie up 2 zombies as a weapon and swing around, and tangle the other walking dead that are rushing. Among the zombies, Peter moved more cautiously. After a corner. What the hell is this? Peter's eyes widened. In the frenzy of tens of thousands of zombies, Green's corpses clustered in the center. Ferocious tentacles soared into the sky, showing off their power in midair, waving their thick hands like octopus tentacles. With a single wave, it can tear apart a 100-meter-high building. The tentacles are constantly zooming in and out in the frenzy. The sound of metal rubbing against each other is very ear-piercing, and the distorted appearance is very similar to the outer god Cthulhu described by the novelist. Cthulhu. Peter was numb. No. Shaking his head, Peter finally realized something was wrong. You are Otto. Familiar metal arms, chubby appearance, and a bit highly myopic appearance, with thick goggles. This is obviously his nemesis, Dr. Octopus. Otto Gunther Octavius. You were also attacked by this virus. Peter's face was a little uncomfortable. After being infected with SCP-008, Dr. Octopus is really primordial. Not only the mechanical arm has become more powerful, but even the appearance has changed a lot. The veins on the head are exposed, and the blood vessels are glowing with purple-green. The head was enlarged, as if it had undergone some kind of distortion, resembling an octopus, which was why Peter mistook it at first. What do you want to gather so many zombies? Otto, are you crazy? Peter stared and growled questioningly. No matter how Dr. Octopus is controlled, the countless zombies around him are not fake. At a glance, there are more than 100,000, and the number is still gathering. Such terrifying power was controlled by the other party, and Peter felt terrified just thinking about it. Crazy. I'm not crazy. It is this world that has been abandoned. Dr. Octopus, who is suspected to be infected with SCP-008, although his body is somewhat deformed, his mind is unexpectedly clear, which is fundamentally different from those zombies who have lost their minds. Facing Peter's questioning, he said it was Wang Za. You and me. Even the entire Queen's district is an outcast. We are all abandoned, we are partners on the same front. Peter, come with me, join the glorious evolution. The frenzied voice of Dr. Octopus rang out. 4 metal tentacles extended from him, 2 injected into the zombie, absorbing unknown energy, and the other 2 attacked Peter with flickering and terrifying power. The metal accumulated in the ruins and formed new tentacles behind him. True to its name, Octopus, Peter swung the cobweb, shuttled with the help of high-rise buildings, and avoided the attack of mechanical tentacles. He had already been bitten by a spider, so he didn't want to be attacked by the zombie virus again. Take back what you just said. Sure enough, you are still brain destroyed by this ghost thing. Although he dodged in a panic, it obviously didn't affect Peter's poisonous tongue. Innocent. Dr. Octopus' expression remains unchanged. Are you still waiting with hope for those high-level politicians? I can assure you, the countdown to the destruction of Queens has already begun. When the time is up, everyone will be reduced to ashes and wreckage under artillery fire. Death is the only way back. If it doesn't work, you can go and see those counselors and high-level officials living in Queens. The places where they used to live should have become empty shells. Dr. Octopus looked contemptuous. If the higher-ups wanted to save it, it would be impossible to condone Queens into chaos. Only by being abandoned can chaos come. Otherwise, the army stationed outside would come in, and the mere zombie frenzy would have been suppressed long ago. This is impossible. Peter's instincts are not good enough. No one can accept that he has become an outcast of the times. But you already believed it. The distorted voice of Dr. Octopus sounded. The one who is most familiar with you will always be your enemy. What? The high command of the Empire has given up Queens. How is it possible? Where is the confidant of the Empire, at least tens of millions of people? Could it be true? I have seen military martial law around me, and there is no delivery of supplies. They won't make a move soon, will they? You fool. I want to die together. I absolutely don't want to sit and be killed. With the screen broadcast, Dr. Octopus' demagogic words spread to the internet, especially to residents living in Queens. Countless people instantly turned red-eyed. In a country where guns are legal, there are definitely not a few people who own guns. Once a riot breaks out, the terrifying impact will be difficult for even the army to control. There are too many ants and they will kill elephants. What's more, these people may be carrying SCP-008 on their bodies. Once it breaks out, the consequences will be unimaginable. The situation is at stake. Military. Nuclear launch preparation. At the first sign of riot, launch at all costs. Ross looked grimly at the screen. In front of them are stacks of temporary authority appointment letters. Locked in Queens, he can carry out all military strikes, including but not limited to nukes. With the broadcast of screen images and fermenting of online public opinion, it seemed that the situation was about to develop in an uncontrollable direction. Ross immediately chose to plan a repeat. Only, now, there was no Tony to stop him. Fake IP address blocking, this simple trick, only works the first time. Hell, humans are indeed the creatures that are best at destruction. Moto Faith awoke from sleep. The strong breath of death caused even him, the Hell Lord, to blink. But, containment, foundation, an incredible existence has appeared on the earth again. The devil's ferocious eyes showed fear. He originally planned to go to the earth in real body and find a delicious soul to sign the contract. Looking at the picture on the sky, he really gave up the idea. He has a long life. Not urgent. No rush at all. Just turn on a projection to go there. No need to take risks, it's best to peep at the screen secretly. The Queen. In the frenzy of gathered zombies. Under the attack of the metal tentacles, Peter seemed a little difficult to cope with, especially when the opponent had a lot of zombies to help out, and he had to be careful not to be cut by the zombies. Relying entirely on Cobweb, dealing with spider telepathy. Give up. We are in the same camp, join the glorious evolution, and give those hypocritical guys some color. Let them see the power of the abandoned. Dr. Octopus' voice sounded. In such a frightening environment like Queens, the bewitching effect is fully stacked. Seeing that the atmosphere is getting more and more terrifying, and the comments on the internet are getting more and more radical, just when the last string of reason is about to break, finally. A new character has appeared. Abandoned. You are just bewitching people. The Empire will never give up on any people. I, Steve Rogers, live and die with everyone in Queens. I guarantee it with my life. The spinning vibranium shield flew from the sky, passed through the flying mechanical tentacles, and slammed Dr. Octopus on the head, interrupting his malicious and demagogic speech, and waited until the shield spun back. Captain America is already standing on a building wreck. Look straight into the zombie frenzy. The stars and stripes tights on his body are very eye-catching among the miserable green zombies. The firm gaze is like the American spirit endowed to him. He has been promoted as an idol for nearly 70 years, and the appearance of Steve originally is a kind of belief. The people in Queens, who were originally flustered, calmed down a little because of his appearance. Like a pot of boiling water, barely cooled down. Military. General Ross, do you want to continue dropping nuclear bombs? The courier next to him was holding a folder. Wait first. Ross squinted his eyes, but the raised hand still didn't press down after all. The time given by the top management is almost up. Now that it has stabilized, it depends on their performance. Ross shook his head, taking a hard look at developing an antidote. It's just a pointless struggle. Wanting to decipher this terrifying virus in a short period of time is undoubtedly a dream. No way. Call. That guy is really tough. By the way, are you really Captain America? That's so cool. Team up with Captain America. After barely forcing Dr. Octopus back, Peter looked at Steve beside him, his eyes lit up. Captain America. The real Captain America. Talking tuberculosis little Spider-Man first appeared. Steve, who has just returned to the modern society from the ice layer, is obviously not used to this kind of enthusiasm. And, with a solemn face, he still has deeper worries in his heart. Time. Running out. Repelling Dr. Octopus can only be said to be solved, a trivial little trouble. Useless for the current predicament. How to solve SCP-008 and save millions of infected people in Queens is the most critical issue. If not resolved, the next step is to nuclear level the world. Don't look at the resoluteness on Steve's face just now, but he is uneasy in his heart. Can he really do it? Steve looked up, looking at the gradually darkening night, with an indescribable solemnity on his face. Can the development of the antidote be successful? Murmured voice. It's like having a conversation across the air. Stark Industrial Building. Great. The research was successful. We finally found a way to crack it. Antidote to SCP-008. The remake of the panacea has not been figured out yet, only the weakened version has the effect, but they have thoroughly researched the antidote for SCP-008, and they can cure hundreds of infected bodies with just one diluted tube. Tony and Brooke, who were buried in the experiment, looked up at the same time. The handsome and rough face was full of joy, and when he looked up, he was astonished, as if the soul inside had gone through countless times, and there was an indescribable separation from the body. In fact, they have indeed experienced countless hours. 1 month, 2 months. 1 year, 2 years. The specific time for immersing in scientific research is not clear at all, but what is certain is that it is definitely more than 1 day. This is the power to manipulate time from the Eye of Agamotto. It also comes from the mysterious side-span time-space assistance. Thank you, Supreme Mage. Unruly like Tony, they lowered their heads seriously. If it wasn't for the sudden appearance of Ancient One, asking them if they need help, manipulating the torrent of time, allowing them to have endless time in disguise, and constantly resetting the time loop in the mirror space, trying all kinds of possibilities. Turn a minute into a month of use. It is impossible for them to decipher the antidote code of SCP-008. But, simply catch up. Bruce's body can be called the limit of human beings, and he can't help feeling a kind of spiritual burnout. It's good to succeed. Ancient One nodded. If it was just an ordinary disaster, even if it was a disaster invasion like a zombie frenzy, under normal circumstances, it would be impossible for her to take action. She would only watch in secret, and would not intervene until the situation completely collapsed. It's like the future of New York. But, the Foundation is an obvious exception. After the matter was resolved, Ancient One's expression softened a little, he put on his hood again, and pulled Strange out. Stephen Strange, you can also call him Dr. Strange, my favorite disciple. Maybe he can help you with some questions. Since the matter here is resolved, it's time for me to leave. Ancient One waved his hand, not taking a single cloud with him. Dr. Strange was pulled over by her ahead of time. The chaotic situation is no longer suitable for the previous assessment method. Suffering and fighting are the best way to grow. After opening the game with Eye of Agamotto and pouring a wave of spell knowledge, Ancient One threw Dr. Strange, who could become a master, to Tony's side. Anyway, the Avengers Alliance was formed in advance, and Doctor Strange appeared earlier, so it's not a big deal, right? With the Foundation's promotion, the timeline has long been a mess. The Ancient One, who can absorb the dark dimension to maintain life, is obviously not a character who can't change his past. Strange. What a strange name. I'll call you Dr. Strange, you shouldn't mind. Tony blinked and greeted familiarly, his eyes were full of curious inquiry, he was quite curious about the power of this mysterious side. Ahem, no problem. Dr. Strange touched his nose. A series of rapid changes broke out. To be honest, he is still a little bit overwhelmed. Obviously, He just wanted to search for the power to heal his hands all over the world, but somehow he became a mage, and he would inherit the title of Supreme Mage in the near future. This experience is too dreamy. Quote. After the somber greetings. After getting to know each other for a while, Tony and the others quickly focused on the business. Rescue. Cracking the code of SCP-008 and creating an antidote is only the first step. Manufacturing, launch, and implementation are the more important follow-up. With Tony and Bruce in the mix, the Ability X2 definitely doesn't have to worry about manufacturing. But the delivery is implemented. There are nearly 1 million patients in Queens, and the number is still rising. It is definitely not an easy task to deal with everything. Give it to me. Superman stepped forward, with boundless confidence on his determined face. At this stage, his strength is the well-deserved first echelon of the Earth. The Queen. The sun gradually rises. The night was gradually replaced by sunlight. Shish. Figures invisible to the naked eye shuttled among tall buildings and alleyways. Both Tony and Bruce take off in their respective battle suits. Little Spider-Man and Captain America, relying on their agility to move, inform hidden people to go to the rescue point. Below is the army that entered the street. Under the guidance of Superman, they carried out an orderly rescue. They entered Queens vigorously, looking like a post-disaster rescue, completely destroying the doubts of the Doomsday. That rascal. It's really strong. Tony smacked his lips and looked at Superman, who was constantly flying in midair. Wearing underwear on the outside, although the appearance is coquettish and weird, but the strength is absolutely staggering. The frenzy of tens of thousands of people can't stop him for a moment, and he can lift the toppled 100-meter-tall building by himself. The exaggerated performances made Tony witness with his own eyes what power is. Strong and scary. Tony lowered his head, eyes sinking slightly. Silently took out his own little book in his heart. A new item, the anti-Superman armor, was added to a large list of unfinished items, and the weight ratio directly surpassed more than 90% of the plans. Top of the list. General, our plan. The soldier wearing the colonel's epaulettes looked at the broadcast on the screen with an ugly expression. Plan. No plan. They succeeded. We humans also succeeded. This is a celebration worth celebrating. Ross's voice fell loudly, with a slight smile on his stern face. Soldier. Don't frown, just smile for me. This is a celebration worth celebrating. Humanity. Victory. Natural disaster. As for him. It's nice to be in prison, isn't it? Anyway, in this era, he cannot be judged lightly. There will be many places where he is needed. The soil for the survival of the Imperial Hawks will only become more and more fertile. Shield. Nice job. I knew he could do it. Nick Fury slapped the table excitedly, and the screen on the center console gradually changed from scarlet to safe green, signifying that the danger level in Queens was constantly decreasing. It has reached a fully controllable level, and the biggest crisis has been resolved. But the way you were desperate and worried to prevent the captain from going in just now doesn't seem like a firm belief at all. Phil Coulson cursed a few words in his heart, but he didn't dare to show it on his face. He opened his mouth and said another thing directly. Director, the Mage of Kamar Taj, we have already invited one, who is the apprentice that the Supreme Mage personally recognized. Stephen Strange, who used to be a surgical expert, injured his hands due to an accident. In order to find a cure, he searched the world for a solution. For some reason, he came into contact with that Supreme Mage. All the information about him has been collected. Natasha Romanoff is entertaining him. Maybe call him Dr. Strange now. Phil Coulson took out a thick stack of reports. As for Dr. Strange, definitely was coaxed and tricked by him. The persona of a good old man, lubricant is his best position. Magic. Strange. Dr. Strange. Nick Fury nodded. The marinated egg that has already started to build the Avengers Alliance just lacks extraordinary combat power, which is the power delivered to the door. Here you go. Patted Phil Coulson on the shoulder. While picking up the file and flipping through it, he walked down. Now, it's time to get in touch with the mysterious side power. Hell, is it solved? It's really fast. The creative power of man. Moto Faith shook his head, looking into Tony's eyes, full of desire and covetousness. This kind of extraordinary intelligent soul is his favorite delicacy. To him, it is no less than the enjoyment of a feast of sea and sky. But, looking at Superman next to Tony, shuttling through the screen, Faith frowned involuntarily. Terrifying power. That guy is definitely not human. The power he expressed was already very strong, but he could feel that infinite power seemed to be conceived in Clark's body, and even he, the Lord of Hell, couldn't help but feel a little palpitation. Really, it's better to keep a low profile. However, if it's just power projection, it shouldn't be a big problem. He's looking for a guy who will come in handy. The production line is roaring. The superhero assistant will distribute the potion. Cooperating with the army's suppression, the natural disaster of zombies quickly disappeared under this force. Even if ambitious people try to do something in vain, Superman's iron fist of justice will tell them the weight of justice every minute. As the virus was controlled one by one, the threat disappeared completely. Open black lens bracket ding. Close black lens bracket. The long-awaited notification tone finally rang in Lin Shu's ears. Open black lens bracket ding. Containment of SCP-008 successful. Close black lens bracket. Rewards are being distributed. Close black lens bracket. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the SCP-008 Prion-controlled version. Close black lens bracket. Is that all right? Lin Shu raised his eyebrows, with some surprise in his eyes. He thought he would be successful only if he had to get rid of all the infected people, but he didn't expect to create an antidote to suppress the situation within a controllable range, and the system directly judged it. But it is also a good thing for him, directly omitting a lot of things. A prion. Lin Shu blinked, raised his right hand, and a bottle of light green potion appeared in his hand. Fluorescent reagents are stored in test tubes. Open black lens bracket SCP-008 Prion-controlled version. Close black lens bracket. A highly contagious virus that can deform and infect flesh and blood creatures and adapt to damaged nervous systems. The owner Lin Shu has absolute control over the virus and its infected body. Close black lens bracket. Note: the direction of the virus can be adjusted to mutate the infected body, but excessive correction may lead to biological collapse. Open black lens bracket, close black lens bracket. Oh, zombie disaster. Lickers. Zombie dogs. Tyrants. Executioners. This is the T-virus. Lin Shu blinked. The effect of the controllable version is much stronger than the original version. With 100% infectivity and controllable effects, it can not only control the infection or not, but also control the direction of distortion. If you have enough time and knowledge. Lin Shu feels that he can create another umbrella company in minutes. And, regardless of the fact that he only has a bottle of reagent in his hand, this is just a matter of realization, just a sample. After successfully containing SCP-008, he can take out infinite viruses at any time. In other words, the inventory in his hand is unlimited. I've made a lot of money. There was a smile on the corner of Lin Shu's mouth. This increase in strength finally felt a little real. Besides the members of the Foundation, he could immediately create a team of tyrants, which greatly enriched the combat power of his subordinates. Open black lens bracket ding. Containment of SCP-008 complete. Whether to open the extraction of the fourth contained item exposure and advent. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Whether close black lens bracket. The familiar words lit up in front of my eyes again. Lin Shu, who has tasted the sweetness, has no hesitation at all. What came to an end amidst all kinds of flashes and splashes was a trickling clear spring with a peaceful atmosphere. Tisk. It turned out to be it. Lin Shu felt a toothache looking at the picture. The containment object might not be very threatening originally, but the chain reaction it triggers after its arrival will definitely make people speechless. Let's find a remote place. Lin Shu smacked his lips, trying to find a suitable position on the selection screen. Before SCP-008 was highly contagious, only the top powers could be selected to launch it. Only they can control the situation in the shortest time and prevent it from collapsing. But this time the containment has no such worries. Mutant school. Eric, give up, your attempt will not succeed. In the face of this dangerous natural disaster, only when the common people and the mutant unite can mankind have a future. Endless psychokinesis sway. Professor X stepped out from the crowd, looking forward with a solemn expression. The X-Men sighed, all of them were high-spirited and clearly had the upper hand. It's because your naive idea can't be realized. Magneto got up from the ground, feeling a little embarrassed. Professor X's recovered body caught him off guard and made him suffer a small loss. In the stalemate, he lost directly. But the expression is still not reconciled. Humans are creatures that are best at eliminating dissidents. The world of mutants can only be ruled by mutants. Your stupid ideas can only be ruined. Magneto scoffed. I won't give up so easily, the future belongs only to us mutant. Magneto clutched his injured body and chose to leave surrounded by the shapeshifting girls. Although injured, but his strength should not be underestimated. Professor. Cyclops frowned slightly. Not the time. Professor X shook his head. Cherish every strength now, definitely not the time for infighting. Although Magneto suffered a loss and lost, the strength of his subordinates is still good. Now is an extraordinary time, not only the situation of mutant, but also the situation of the Earth is not stable, even precarious. Professor X looked up, and the new countdown on the screen was coming to an end. New containment. It's coming soon. Be prepared and try to fight for it. Professor X narrowed his eyes slightly, and his expression was a bit dignified. To achieve his goal, appropriate external force is necessary. After experiencing the miraculous curative effect of SCP-500, he has high expectations for these contained items. Shield. Aren't Superman and Batman here? Nick Fury frowned. These are the two great powers he has his eye on, especially Superman, the terrifying power that even made him see the shadow of Captain Marvel, definitely among the top superpowers he has come into contact with. No, they seem to have returned to Gotham City and need to deal with some things, and the aftermath of the infected in Queens also needs a large amount of medicine supply. Phil Coulson shook his head, whispering beside him. Okay. Then let's meet our new member, Iron Man, Tony Stark. Nick Fury nodded. During the conversation with Doctor Strange just now, he had already tricked him into the Avengers he had just formed with his own charisma. New member. I don't remember ever promising something like this. Also, Avengers are something, listen to me, this name is really ugly. Tony's slightly picky voice sounded. Playboy walked slowly with a young man with immature features, like a student. Team leader. Nick Fury nodded towards Captain America behind Tony. Turning to look at Tony, won't you introduce me to the guy next to you? Peter Parker, just call me Peter. Seeing the little Spider-Man of Big Shot for the first time, he was obviously a little shy. Spider-Man, do you want to join the Avengers and fight for the world? Nick Fury's eyes lit up, and his instinct to cheat was awakened again. Can I? Peter looked surprised. Definitely. Braised Egg nodded, it's safe. After a few words made the hot-blooded boy dizzy, he turned his eyes to Tony again. Earth. Well, this kind of talk is useless to me. Tony interrupted impatiently. Let's settle the matter first, the new coming thing is about to start again. The time is too fast. I hope it won't be this kind of high-risk containment again. Tony scratched his head in displeasure. Looking up at the screen, the ticking countdown in the sky is coming to an end. Countdown to exposure of the fourth containment item, 0 hours and 59 minutes. ... Asgard. Father. Are we going to make a move? Thor watched the countdown on the screen, his eyes flickering eagerly. This is a battle. His favorite thing is fighting. To be able to compete with all kinds of powerful people in the 9 realms, let them experience their own strength, and spread their prestige. This is definitely Thor's favorite thing. Before, he thought Midgard was weak, so he was not interested. But, now, Thor was obviously interested in the power users who had shown off their horns. Just the Superman who appeared in the zombie disaster before, it seems that he can fight well. Definitely a good opponent. Wolverine seems to be good too, don't worry about killing him. Iron Man. The iron bumps are a bit strenuous, and I'm not interested. Why? Just when Thor was thinking about competing with his opponents. Odin on the throne sighed insignificantly. Unexpectedly, he, a king who claims to be wise, would have such a stupid son. The lifespan enters the twilight years. But the successor is an idiot who only knows how to be brave and ruthless, and the other is even more outrageous, who can only play tricks behind his back. The king can be reckless, but he must not shrink back. Hiding in the shadow of others, how can you make your subordinates surrender? If it is said that Thor's recklessness may lead Asgard to danger, then Loki's small tricks are not even on the table, and he is not even qualified to compete for the king. For these two successors, Odin can be said to be quite tired. Shaking his head, with a tired expression on his face, he directly rejected Thor's request. Stay in God's domain. With the current chaotic situation in Midgard, Odin is definitely not willing to throw his son into the trial. No matter how stupid you are still your own stupid brother. Military. Podium. Various large and small screens are intertwined and scattered. Monitor the country as much as possible. Attempt to mobilize and react within the shortest possible time when the containment arrives, and minimize the loss. Hope. The contained objects that came this time don't appear in the Empire's territory again. The Major General with flowers on his shoulders looked at the screen and said with emotion. His words. It has aroused the approval of countless colleagues next to him. Empire. It is too miserable. The contained objects descended 3 times, and each time they appeared at the core of the Empire. Those who didn't know it thought it was a crime of nature. Many people sitting here have moved to emigrate to other places. Little life is the most important thing. Work, you can commute by plane, it's not a problem at all. Quiet. Video exposure, start. Sitting at the forefront, the general with a stern expression spoke, with cumbersome shoulder straps, he was an honored general. Exposure. The fourth containment item SCP-006 Fountain of Youth. Close black lens bracket. Clatter. Clear springs and flowing water sound from the mountains. The clear stream gushes from the oasis grass, and the cheerful sound of the water seems to be singing. It is a spring in an oasis. The flowing water irrigates the surrounding oasis, and countless birds and beasts fly from the sky to drink from the spring. Oasis spring water. The contents this time feel very ordinary. Yeah, it feels like that. The spring water is quite clear, but it feels like that, and the name is very grand. The bad-mouthing voice of the blockbuster sounded on the internet. The sudden means of making clear springs appear in the oasis is indeed amazing and amazing at other times. But it's really far from the gestures shown by the Foundation's containment objects before. Zombie virus, horror dolls, panacea. That is not an extraordinary and incomprehensible method, it is just spring water gushing out of the desert, it is too common to compare. But is it possible? Is it really a fountain of youth? Literally, it is a fountain of youth that can make people live forever. In the biological sense, eternal immortality, in other words, is eternal life. A bullet screen quietly crossed the internet. Although extremely fast. Disappeared like a meteor falling to the ground. But the sudden reaction it caused directly detonated the world. Longevity. Not old. This is the eternal fantasy of mankind for the future. Is it fake? Is this spring water really able to make people ageless? Isn't that just a myth? I don't believe it, it's impossible, absolutely impossible, how can there be such a bug? Countless people couldn't believe it. The picture on the screen is not high-end, at most it can be regarded as a fresh scenery, the flowing spring water just like this flows in the oasis for free, and the immortality, which is comparable to a mythical item, is really far from the picture style. Don't believe it. The name of the panacea is also so concise. The cold barrage slides across the internet. On the internet, the barrage froze for an instant, and the picture became much clearer. It has been proven that the panacea that can cure all known diseases, SCP-500, its appearance is just like a small pill. Why? This spring cannot make people live forever. Containment. It has never been defined by inherent thinking. They are all incarnations of otherworldly concepts. Gulu. Black marinated egg, this thing can't be real, can it? Tony couldn't help swallowing. Excessively excited, he even pronounced the nickname he slandered in his heart. But it doesn't matter. Nick Fury was obviously too shocked to notice this at all. Longevity. Not old. Could it really be what they guessed? He bowed his head gravely. The barrage swarming across the internet made him frown. Asgard, golden hall. Not old. Odin's eyes were fixed, and he couldn't help but clench the armrest on the throne. There was an expressionless expression on his face. Rare changes occur. Kamar Taj. New containment. Ancient One murmured softly, staring at the picture on the screen with a serious expression. She has always been extraordinary, and she felt a rare turmoil in her heart. Unable to control her emotions well, a dark energy leapt out from her fingertips but was snuffed out by her in an instant. Military. Ha ha ha. Fake, it must have been guessed by those guys randomly. It's just a name, just like all kinds of tourist attractions in our country. It's just a gimmick. How can it be true, right, sir? Those birds and beasts have not changed at all after drinking the spring water, they must be fake. The major general who just prayed that the contents would not come to the empire. His expression suddenly became stiff. He could clearly feel the weird sights around him, and he wanted to ease the atmosphere with a ha-ha. But, the supreme officer looked at him with an unusually cold expression. Ice cold. It's like looking at the enemy in this life. Front. The exposure content continues to change. Open black lens bracket SCP-006 Fountain of Youth close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket object level, safe close black lens bracket. Intake of this liquid will bring the following effects to the human body. Completely replicate and repair DNA damage, strengthen cell division, greatly improve the speed of damaged tissue repair, and greatly improve the efficiency of the immune system. In animal experiments, it can destroy harmful bacteria and virus reagents injected into the body. Close black lens bracket. Note: most reptiles and birds are not affected by the liquid composition of SCP-006, and the symptoms of advanced primates are highly consistent with those of humans. Close black lens bracket. A large string of text that is biased towards scientific description seems a bit confusing. But, in layman's terms, it means longevity. Not old. Repairing DNA damage and strengthening cell division can keep the human body in the prime of life without being affected by aging, increase the speed of repair, give people efficient self-healing power, and improve the immune system to prevent all diseases. Literally exposed content. It has already proved the horror of SCP-006, Fountain of Youth. True to its name. Asgard, Golden Hall. Click. The armrest on the throne was crushed to pieces. Father. Thor turned his head, with a bit of astonishment on his face. No, it's okay. Odin breathed heavily, and it took him a long time to calm down. We all know. The biggest characteristic of the Asgard royal family, or the Warner Protoss, is that the older they are, the stronger they are. Their strength will continue to grow with age. Moreover, this kind of improvement is still a linear skyrocketing. The closer to the end of life, the more terrifying the increase in strength. So, Odin's strongest peak has never been before. But now, the strength of the old version of Odin is a well-deserved horror. Odin, Thor, Hela. And so are all the royal families of Asgard. But, similarly, following that, there is a drawback. Life. When they are at their strongest, their lifespan is coming to an end, their bodies are gradually decaying, and they are about to enter death. But, years ago, this containment could actually allow people to maintain immortality. To slow down the time of death through the acceleration and repair of cell division, even if the extended time can only be halfway, it is an unimaginable treasure for Asgard. Think about it. Asgard's already terrifying strength has leapt up again. This is simply an alternative evolution. With absolute strength, all schemes are ridiculous paper tigers. As long as he can win this containment and give it to Thor, Odin will no longer have to worry about being unable to hold back the scene as a fool. This is the treasure that belongs to Asgard. In Odin's opened one eye, a golden brilliance blooms that is inevitable. Thanks for watching, subscribe and support my channel.